Welcome to the X Corner. I'm here adding to Little Mutations at SuperHeroCrew. I'll be covering the X comics for the week of June 12th, 2019. This week we have 4 comics: Age of XMen Apocalypse in the X-Tracts number 4, Age of X-Men, The Marvelous X-Men number 5, Major X number 5, and X-Force number 9. Spoilers, of course. We'll start with Age of X-Men Apocalypse in the X-Tracts number 4, written by Tim Seeley, art by Salvador Espen. We find Eye-Boy recovering from his maiming thanks to some healing powers from Genesis. This heal had a side effect though, as his all-seeing power goes into overdrive and he sees everything. There are some things too hard to see, but he does see Genesis about to be murdered by Omega Red, so he rushes off to help. Genesis is holding his own for now, but the fight is getting close to a village, and Omega Red's death spores will wipe everyone out. Back in Manhattan, Apocalypse is having a party. Colossus shows up to see Kitty, and she's scared Apocalypse will kill him. Peter explains that he's gone rogue for her. She at first resists, but then she relents as her feelings for him rush back. Back to Omega Red and Genesis. Omega Red has brought him to where he was born, and explains that he's been seeing visions of his destiny. He's actually seeing the real world, but he thinks it's what he was meant to be doing, fighting the X-Men. He also says that Genesis' dad is actually the worst bad guy ever. Genesis refuses to believe him, but Omega Red steals his celestial power inside him by skewering Genesis through the chest. Apocalypse feels a great disturbance in the Force, and knows something has gone wrong. He teleports the team back home and finds his son dead. He gets Unveiled to use her mist on everyone, including Colossus, to feel the ultimate feeling of losing someone you love. Later, Eye-Boy is healed up totally by Apocalypse. This time, his power is even more powered up, and he can see where he couldn't last time. And he discovers that Apocalypse has been working with X-Men, and that this whole thing is a lie. This story finally comes to a head as Apocalypse is shown his true colors. As we see in the next comic too, X-Man and Apocalypse's control is slipping, and too many people know the truth. It may have taken 5 miniseries of 5 issues each, but we finally get to the point of this whole Age of X-Men story. More on that next review. This was fine, the art was wonky and the story a little overwrought, but next we might have the X-Tracts rebelling against Apocalypse, so that might be nice. 6.5 out of 10. Then there's Age of X-Men, Marvelous X-Men number 5, written by Ronnie Nadler and Zach Thompson, with art by Marco Faella. Continuing the Age of X-Men race to the end, we get X-Men remembering his days in the original X-Men, and that even scares him how much he's changed this fake world. We then find out that Mineta is dead, so I guess that spoils the next Extremis book. Nature Girl is able to talk to the microbes in the dead body to see what happened. Mineta confronted Apocalypse and used her powers to see into his mind. She saw that he was working with X-Men as an adversary to the X-Men. Apocalypse killed Mineta by sticking his finger into her brain. Nature Girl tells the rest of the X-Men that Nate created this whole world, and they don't appreciate being lied to. Back at the base, they're trying to figure out what to do, and X-23 pulls out all the gear she found hidden in her house. Jean sees it and remembers Bishop, and now they're even more pissed that he erased their friend from their heads. Meanwhile, X-Men has been listening in, as he's omnipresent, and decides to come home to talk. The X-Men seem to want to talk, but the moment he arrives, they attack, throwing their plan out the window much to Magneto's chagrin. Nate just freezes them mid-attack, and tries to explain to them that he did it for their own good. He says that the X-Men are always self-sabotaging their happiness, so he had to take control. He also explains he didn't create this world, he is this world, and it's all going to be explained in Age of X-Men Omega. As a wrap-up to a miniseries, this sucked, as it wrapped nothing up. As I go through all these Age of X-Men minis, it occurs to me that they may have worked better as a single book with multiple storylines. None stand on their own, but I'm not hating this mosaic they're creating. But I'm sure by the end of all these, I'll have a better perspective and more to say. This book was very interesting, good use of Nature Girl's powers talking to the microbes. She can now solve all the murders ever. She probably won't, though. I also liked how Magneto had a plan, and no one even tried to follow it. The combo of both the X-Men books this week worked because these two series, more than any other, are so linked. These could at least been one story. This, though, gets a 7 for pretty good art and clever use of powers. Then we have Major X number 5, written by Rob Liefeld, art by Brent Peoples. When we last left Major X, McCoy, and the Existential, God, I never get that name. They had teleported to Genosha and were surrounded by sentinels. It turns out the Essential has been using the island as a base, and we travel to the present. We meet another disciple Essential named Aura. But before we can find out much about her, the Essential says he needs her to continue on and merges with her, I guess. I'm not sure there's much left of her, to be honest, and it seems pretty rapey. Before any ethical questions can be asked, though, the bad guy from the last issue shows up in an Iron Man-like armor with a bunch of his goons. He's been hunting for Major X since he disappeared years ago. Essential, though, won't have it and sends her sentinels after the Iron Man ripoffs. The villain does a classic "I'm not actually here" shtick. The Essential force chokes him to death back at his base anyways. Then we find ourselves back with the future Atlanteans. I'm not sure when this is or where this is, but Namor is pissed and blows his big horn to call the beast from the sea, to do something that isn't too clear. Back in the present, the Essential, Major X, and McCoy show up at the X-Mansion and meet with what seems to be X-Men Red. They're there because something is wrong with Major X, I guess, and they need his mother, who turns out to be Storm. So Cable and Storm do it, eh? Is it Kid Cable? Because that's a little creepy. This comic is called Major X, but it's the Essential show this issue. He steals a little girl's body and kills all the enemies like it was nothing. Where's the threat? Namor in the future blowing a horn, I guess. This comic has gone past confusing to ridiculous. Why introduce Aura to kill her off essentially 2 pages later? The Essential is basically Proteus stealing meat suits. One more issue and we could put this nightmare behind us. 5 out of 10. Lastly, we have X-Force number 9, written by Ed Brisson, art by Dylan Burnett. The frenetic battle between X-Force and the MLA continues. Blacksmith goes all Yoda and attacks his attackers, then somehow freezes time. This allows the X-Force to disengage and go find Cable and stop Strife. Deathlock, Cannonball, and Warpath are sent to find Cable, with Boom Boom, Shatterstar, and Domino going after Strife. They find Cable all techno-organic out, and Deathlock starts to cut through it all to get to Cable. Domino and her team are trying to stealth up on Strife, but Shatterstar keeps murdering people loudly and they get caught. Meanwhile, Rachel is getting back her consciousness and has a vision of another her. It's the Ascani Mother version from this timeline. She says she is dead, but her presence remains, and she bonds with Rachel. Rachel breaks the psychic chains and burns Strife's psychic blobs. She then blasts some MLA and wants to know what's going on as she frees the captured X-Force team. Another penultimate issue of a series with a big wrap-up next month. I'm glad Rachel's back. I hope she drops her stupid Prestige name. She's the Phoenix, get over it. Not much more really to say about this comic. It was funny that Shatterstar was killing people too loudly. He just said it wasn't his fault they weren't dying quietly. Also, Warpath and Cannonball watching Deathlock cut his way to Cable was funny. The artwork's good in action, but has a real fun cartoony look for static scenes that I enjoy. This was a pretty average X-Force stuff, so I guess 7 out of 10. Pretty okay week, I guess. Nothing earth-shattering, and other than the utter nonsense that is Major X, nothing bad. Major X is so bad, it's almost fun to make fun of. Next week, more finales of the Age of X-Men books that will just tell us to go read Age of X-Men Omega. So we have that to look forward to. See you then.